This is Adam Gorney, the National Recruiting Director at Rivals.com, here with James Sackville, who runs Athletes in Recruitment Air. It's an app, very interesting take on the recruiting process, the connection between coaches and families and recruits. And James, better than me, who is very novice at this, kind of discuss, kind of break it down exactly what this is. And I love the comparison of this is LinkedIn meets Tinder.
Yeah, I mean, you pretty much explained it. I mean, AIR combines the concept of LinkedIn and Tinder, but specifically for college recruiting. So a student athlete can create their own athletic resume, promote themselves to relevant college coaches, compare themselves with their peers, swipe left and or right on a university based on their specific wants and needs, and then college coaches can go and do the same thing. So they can sort, filter, and swipe on a prospective student athlete based on their specific wants and needs, and essentially, build their own player, whether it's a physical trait, academic, location, how fast you run, how high you jump, you name it, they can essentially do that. And then we also have a third user, which is the liaison, which you mentioned. So the high school coach, the private trainer, recruiting service, parent, guardian, etc. Someone that acts as that third party and or intermediary between the athlete and the coach. So that's the genesis of what we've built thus far in the first 5 months.
Now I know LinkedIn well. I've begged for jobs on LinkedIn. Tinder, I'll never admit to my wife that I've ever seen it and know nothing about it. But
Yeah.
how does this work in terms of players? Is it really a player goes and says, I want to play in the Midwest. I'm an offensive lineman. I do these things, and these are the schools that I like. Come and find me, or I find you. Here's my huddle, here's my highlight tape, kind of break that down. And then I think from the coaching side, it's I'm looking for offensive linemen who are 6'5" and taller. I'm looking for guys under 300 pounds, whatever it would be. How does that kind of work in terms of that?
Yeah, so there's a verification system. So every athlete can upload their own information. Their liaisons, whether it's the high school coach, private trainer, can actually go in and verify that piece of information and upload a piece of film to prove it. So, how often do you hear of a kid and he says he's 600, 200 pounds and runs a 4.5, and he's really 5'9" and a half, a buck 75 and runs a 4.8 on a good day? I mean, it happens all the time, right? So what we have the ability to do is the athlete can upload a piece of film. So it's, me standing here behind the wall and it says that I'm 6 foot, or if I stood on a scale and it said I was 200 pounds, or you could go watch the film that says, okay, he runs a 4.5. And the college coach can make that decision with their own two eyes. College coaches aren't stupid. So we're giving them the ability to make that decision rather than just read numbers on a screen. And then from a validation standpoint, recruiting is a relationship business, which I'm sure you and your viewers are aware of. So if you're a private trainer or a high school coach and you're blatantly lying about, the physical traits of one of your athletes, and that, that it turns out to be a lie, then that's not going to end well for you in this business. So that's the genesis of how we've built it. And then on the coaching side, you're correct. A coach might they're looking for only kids to recruit in California, or maybe the state of Georgia, or maybe, even just a specific city, or, it's a physical trait, maybe, where maybe the University of Alabama only wants offensive linemen that are 6'4" and above. Doesn't matter if you're the best in the country, but if you're 6'2", you're not going to play here, for example. Right. Like I don't know the preferences of the schools, but we give them the choice to do so. And that's how we've done it. And then, how it interlocks is you've got to, the timeline looks very similar to that of your LinkedIn or your Twitter, minus all the fluff that happens on Twitter. And then you've also got the pure matchmaking ability of what a dating app would look like. So, there's no purer way to evaluate matchmaking than, a simple swipe left or a simple swipe right. It's a tried and true process that now has worked for the better part of a decade. And, as a society, we've hit maturity in that standpoint where we just understand what swipe left and swipe right means. And it's not really that novel anymore. It's just part of society. So that's, I think the market effects have really timed up quite nicely.
Certainly the tried is definitely well adopted, I'm sure. But let's talk about adoption here. It seems like sort of a win-win. Players get to expose themselves to coaches and all of their abilities. Coaches get to see players and all of their abilities and what they want and not necessarily what they don't want and those kinds of things. How has this been accepted, even though it's sort of a new to the market?
Yeah, 60,000 users in the first 5 months in football alone. So I would consider that pretty good market adoption.
Sure,
In
sure.
the first 5 months, we're very much on track to hit 100,000 by the end of the year, by New Year's Eve, which will be great. Which that's 10% of the entirety of college football in 7 months. Um, and we it's free, so there's zero barrier to entry. Is kind of the best way that I'm dealing with this, and we've completely gone direct to consumer. I think is the best way of really understanding how and why we've done it. Is we're just living in a world where the consumer is king. So we don't need to go sell to a university or sell to a high school program when I can just sell directly to the 15 or 16-year-old boy, and let them make their own decisions. That's
Sure.
really the way in which we've gone about it.
What level of football player do you think this helps the most? I I could be convinced. I'm not certain that it helps like the 5-star that everybody knows, but
Hmm.
it might, in a sense, that he can say, I'm interested in your school, and you might not know that. Um,
Yep.
does this help the lower level Division 1 kid who's looking for an opportunity that might be playing somewhere that he's not getting enough attention, and now this is kind of that idea. Where do you kind of see this in terms of who this really benefits?
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. I mean, the 5-star within just general media, there are enough media sites, including yourselves, that are going to hype up a 4-star and a 5-star enough and build their brand recognition in that front, which is what you guys do the best, right?
Right.
That part is awesome, but like you're only helping the elite of the elite kids. There's only I don't know, what, 35 stars a year. I don't know the exact number.
Yeah, like
But
32. We try to mirror the first round of the NFL draft.
Okay,
Yeah.
so there are
Yeah.
32 5 stars. That's the glorified, big time name. But there are a million kids playing high school football every year. So,
Yeah.
like, what about everyone else? There's an
Yeah.
overwhelming amount of everyone else relative to the 32 best kids in the country. So that's who I think it helps. I mean, and that's why we built the liaison part of the equation. Is there are so many kids out there that need representation. We have to understand they're still teenagers, and they're not going to have it figured out, and they need help in this process. So that's really who we help. I think we help everyone that isn't the 4-star and the 5-star. It's not to say that the 4-star and the 5-star can't get on. Absolutely. I mean, there are always going to be ways for this to help in any way that you choose. I mean, sending emails or DMs, doesn't really work. Coaches get
Right.
hundreds and thousands of them, and you have to do something to win their attention. So we feel as though we've built the way for you to more adequately win their attention, and also give the coach the opportunity to say, hey, if I don't like you in the first 2 or 3 plays, like, okay, we live in an instant gratification world. So like, make a good first impression, and that's how
Yeah.
we've built it.
For people that don't know, you're from Australia. You kicked at
Born and
SMU.
raised. Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
Was this sort of spawned from this idea that it's so hard to get attention there? Unless you're at Pro Kick Australia, you're really not getting that much attention. Even still, you might be getting overlooked. How much does this help the overlooked or underappreciated, American high school football player, but also internationally? There's a huge kind of contingent in Europe now coming along, and Australia. How much can that help get exposure for international kids?
Tremendously. I think I'm the perfect example. I came through Pro Kick, which is what you mentioned, and I was lucky enough to, get a full scholarship despite having never ever played a snap of college football. So I was incredibly fortunate, and I wouldn't have been able to get here without Pro Kick. But I also felt as though if I was as good as everyone and everyone was telling us we were as Australian guys coming over, then I should have been able to choose where I wanted to go, right? And we didn't have that opportunity in Pro Kick, which they have their process on why they do that, and it works for them. But I just felt as though the consumer should be in control pretty much under all circumstances, and let the market be the market. And that's the byproduct of why we've built it. And I thought it was an international issue. Moved to America, realized that it was even more prevalent domestically, and I was like, oh wow, like there's a real problem here. And that's how we've built it. But yeah, there's tremendous international application, not just in football, but in every sport that's played within the NCAA, both male and female athletes.
What else do people need to know about this? How do you want to kind of see this even get bigger? And like I said, it seems like it's helping everyone. It's not really hurting anyone. If coaches don't want to use it, they don't have to. Players don't have to use it. If
Yeah.
they find it very resourceful and helpful, which it seems like it would be in every instance, they certainly can use it, and it benefits both the player and the coach. Kind of, where do you kind of see this evolving to and going from here?
Yeah, where we are expanding into every other sport that is offered within
Yeah.
collegiate athletics, both men's and women's. So that will occur within the next 12 months. And then it's a pure resource. You know, if you're a small business owner and you offer any product and or service where your target demographic is the youth athlete or the family of the young athlete, air is a warm lead for you. You
Yeah.
know, every single athlete that's gotten on air has already indicated that they're interested in pursuing the next level. So they're
Mhm.
more willing to do whatever it takes to get there and probably put their dollars behind it as well. And that's the beautiful thing about what we've built is it's pure network effects. You know, if you're a private trainer I'm in Dallas, so if you're a pure private trainer in the local DFW area and you're looking for more kids to train, then like you know that every single kid on air is looking to get better. So like
Yeah.
it's probably a pretty warm, you know, ground for you to go find your next client.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, there's so much that is there to offer, not only from domestically but internationally, and as we expand the real, you know, it'll be the true, you know, sports network and sports community. So that's the genesis of what we've built, and it takes the fluff out. You know, like we're giving the power back to the athlete under all circumstances. I think that a lot of, you know, companies in sports technology probably built it for the coach first, and that's awesome, but we've built it with the athlete first in mind. You know, coaches didn't want to get on Twitter, you know, and then they realized that all the kids were on Twitter, and they're like, oh, I have no choice now, you
Right.
know. So
Right.
ours is the similar model. Now we have over 1,000 coaches on the platform, and they're loving it, but I mean, there's always going to be early adopters until it hits maturity. So that's kind of where we're heading at the moment.
In terms, and this is sort of the last topic that I want to talk, which could certainly be a big benefit, is NIL, and that is becoming so prevalent in college football. We've seen $1 million deals for guys that haven't even played games yet, and exposure and social media presence is a huge part of the NIL money. And it's not even at the biggest schools. I mean, some of the small schools and some examples I've seen and you've shown are guys that just have major social media followings for one reason or another, whether it's
Yeah.
I'm interested in hunting and hunters follow me, or I'm interested in following NASCAR and NASCAR people follow me, or whatever it is. How does this benefit that? And like you said, it's a place for businesses, for anybody to go to say, this is someone I want representing my brand, and I'll give them money to do it.
Yeah, I think that you hit the digital part of this whole NIL equation is by far the most important part. I mean, for example, we work with an athlete named John Seaton, who is a redshirt freshman at Elon University. He's a walk-on at an FCS program, and at the time, he'd played 0 snaps, zero, hadn't played a single snap of college football, but he has 1.5 million followers on TikTok. So, you know, reach and attention is the hardest thing to acquire in today's day and age. And regardless of his ability on the field, he has significant reach off the field. So, like, it makes a lot of sense. You also see some of the big, you know, who are the two leaders in the Heisman running this year, and they're probably both benched at the moment. So,
Yeah.
you know, it's not about your on-field performance, NIL. That's not what this is. It's about your ability to reach the consumer to sell whatever good or service it might be, and that's what gets brands really excited. So, for us, I mean, it's inevitable that high school NIL is going to become a reality. We don't know when that time is going to be, but it's not a matter of if, but when.
Right.
Um, and for us, I mean, we have the volume, we have the attention of the consumer. So, you know, we have an opportunity there to you know, provide a whole lot of opportunity to all of those athletes. And then from our marketing strategy perspective, I mean, who's better to talk about air than every single kid in the country as that's a college athlete that had their own recruiting story, whatever it was, whether you're a walk-on or whether you're a 5-star, everyone has a story about their recruiting process. So pretty easy to talk about it, your own personal experience.
Excellent. James, thank you for joining me. This is James Sackville from AIR. I'm Adam Gorney for Rivals.com.